Welcome, everybody, to our health cafe on how to improve your sleep. My name is Lindsay Hermery. I'm a recreation therapist at the Red Deer Primary Care Network, and I am joined today with my colleague, Kelsey Isfan. She is a pharmacist. So Kelsey is going to pop in later on in the presentation to discuss sleep medications. And so we will begin. So today we would like to discuss some facts about sleep, of course, how you can improve your sleep, and as well, what about sleep medications? How do they fit into this? Are they appropriate for use, or is there other options that will best suit you? And then lastly, how can the Red Deer Primary Care Network help you with your sleep issues? So it's always helpful for people to understand the basics of sleep. And I think that most of us were raised with an impression that our sleep has to be a very particular way, possibly 8 hours of solid sleep throughout the night. And if it's not that, then we have an issue. And we know through research and just time learning more that that's not true, and that everybody's sleep needs are very different. And so some basics about sleep, you may or may not know that we actually progress through 5 different stages of sleep throughout each night, and each stage has its own importance. And not only do we progress through these stages, but we cycle through them as well. So, stage 1 and 2 of sleep are fairly light. And some people, especially anybody that has insomnia or severe insomnia, may actually perceive stage 1 and 2 as being awake. So, you can use that as a positive sleep thought that you might actually be getting more sleep than you think. And so, yeah, we also, as I was saying, we cycle through these stages. So we'll cycle, from 1 all the way down to stage 5, which is our REM sleep, and then back up into the lighter stages of sleep. So it is very normal for us to maybe have a bit of alertness or awakeness throughout the night, but then falling back into those deeper stages of sleep. What is a good night's sleep? Well, it's based on how you feel the next day. And that goes back to the idea that everybody's sleep needs are incredibly different from each other's. Some people can function very well off 6 hours of sleep, while some may need 9 to feel fully rested. And so determining if you have a need to improve your sleep would be based off of how you're feeling and functioning the next day. We also know that our sleep needs decrease as we age. So as we age, after about, I believe, 70 years, we don't need as much sleep as we did when we were younger. And another really important piece of the basics of sleep is understanding how our body's internal clock works. And that is that sunlight and body temperature really are the 2 key things to help regulate our body's internal clock. So our body, our brain essentially has a 24-hour clock. And this clock regulates body temperature by controlling the release of a naturally occurring hormone in the brain called melatonin. You might be very familiar with that word. So when sunlight enters the eyes, melatonin concentrations decrease, which promotes wakefulness. So, that's one tip that you can use right there, is to somehow get sunlight into your eyes as early as possible. This increases wakefulness and alertness by signaling the body temperature to rise. Our body temperature generally rises during the day, except we do have a brief dip in the afternoon, typically around 2 o'clock, and you might feel that. I know I certainly do on some days around 2 o'clock. I kind of get that little mid-afternoon slump. And then it hits its daily peak around 6 p.m. and then starts to go down. So we're most alert in the late morning and the early evening when our body temperature is at the highest. And then at night, when light ceases to enter the eyes, this causes the secretion of melatonin. Our body temperature drops, alertness wanes, and then we get sleepy. So body temperature continues to decline and reaches its daily low around 4 a.m. It then prepares us for waking by beginning to rise before the sunrise. Once we awaken, the cycle of increasing body temperature during the day and falling at night repeats itself. So many people have an internal clock that is shifted. And so in some of the skills that I'm going to talk about here, you can use them to help to regulate your internal clock, one way or another, depending on how it is shifted for you. So how can we improve our sleep? So we can create new sleep habits. And these skills have been highly tested and researched to determine, what are the best things that we can do to improve our sleep. And so creating new sleep habits is one of them. And I'll talk about the second piece here going forward. So only go to bed when you're sleepy, which I know can be challenging for people, and get out of bed when you can't sleep. So time spent awake in bed, whether it be reading or watching TV, or maybe it's just worrying about something that happened during the day or what's about to happen the next day, or possibly just tossing and turning because you're uncomfortable, can create associations in the brain between bed and activities other than sleep. So we really want to strengthen that association between bed and sleep by only using the bed when we're sleeping. So we work to achieve this by kind of the following two recommendations. A good rule of thumb: if you've been awake in bed or trying to fall asleep for more than 30 minutes, then it would be good to get out of your bed at that point and go do something very relaxing, such as light reading, listening to some calming music, or if you're having thoughts that are keeping you awake at bed, then it might be a good idea at that point to just jot down some of your thoughts so that you can get them out of your head and onto a piece of paper, and then you can leave them there and be able to return to bed without them still running around and dancing in your head. Coloring is another example of something that you can do that's just relaxing. But again, the idea is to help create that association with your brain that bed equals sleep. Aside from, bed equaling a place to watch TV or toss and turn or scroll on your phone, those types of things. So on to the third point here. We want to get out of bed at the same time every day, which I know that can be challenging for people. But this is one of the skills that can really help to reset that internal clock, your sleep cycle and your sleep drive. So getting out of bed at the same time every day includes weekends, which I know, again, can be challenging for people. You should wake up, within 30 minutes throughout the week, the same 30 minutes. So if you wake up at 7 most of the time, at least, between 7 and 7:30 would be your goal for all 7 days of the week. So tips to help you succeed with this: set an alarm, limit yourself to only hitting the snooze button once, or maybe it's not at all. And even making your morning routine easier by doing some preparations in the evening. We know that it's easier to get out of bed in the morning when there's less to do, there's less stressors. When we know that we've got a lot of things that we have to get done in a short period of time, then we're not as motivated to get out of our bed. So that's the second piece of it, is, waking up at the same time every day, but also getting out of bed within 30 minutes of that wake up time. The next point is about setting up your sleep environment. So that's one of the things that research shows we can do to help to improve our sleep. So what this could look like would be, reducing any noise level, possibly wearing earplugs if you need to. Ensure that your room is dark with blackout blinds or whatever you need to do to darken it. Make sure that the temperature is cool. If it's too warm, then it can be very difficult for us to fall asleep because we're fighting that body temperature, which helps to regulate our sleep cycle and our sleep system. And of course, make sure that your bedroom is comfortable and a relaxing environment for people. And again, only reserving that bed for sleep and sex. The last tip is about reducing caffeine. And again, this is a very individual one because the effects of caffeine are different for everybody, right? So we know that the effects of caffeine may last 4 to 5 hours after it's consumed. And as I said, the effects of that can be very different from person to person. So a good rule of thumb would be to just avoid caffeine after lunch if you want to ensure that it's not affecting your sleep. Also limiting the amount to no more than 3 8-ounce cups a day. So that could be something that you could try if you are a coffee drinker, and especially if you drink a lot of coffee and your sleep is a problem for you, then that could definitely be a first approach for you to try. Okay. So the second piece of what we know works to help improve sleep is about quieting the mind and challenging your thoughts about sleep. So many studies have found that skills around improving insomnia are called cognitive behavioral therapy skills. So you may have heard that term before, or CBT type skills, meaning changing your thoughts and behaviors about a circumstance. So for example, if you haven't been sleeping well for a long time in your life, you're going to have some thoughts and behaviors around that, right? You may be finding yourself becoming very anxious about going to bed every night and anticipating that you won't have a good night's sleep. And to add to it, if you have something going on the next day that you need to be alert and prepared for, that might add an added layer of stress for you. And so challenging those thoughts and changing them around in a way that's more compassionate to yourself is a very well-studied skill to support improving your sleep. So for example, an initial thought may be, I didn't get any sleep at all last night. So one way that you could switch that thought, it could look like, as I said at the beginning of this presentation, I'm probably getting more sleep than I think I am. That might be a way to switch the thought of I didn't get any sleep at all. So I challenge you to become more aware of the things that you say to yourself and the narrative that's going on in your head as you prepare for sleep, or even into the next day when you reflect on how you slept the night before. And try to switch the thoughts to be a little bit more compassionate and kind around your sleep. The second bullet point there says manage life stressors. So of course, we could assume that any sort of life stressors would be affecting our sleep. And we know that that is true for many people. So if you know that there is a particular stressor in your life that is keeping you awake at night, I highly recommend you seek out resources in the community to support you in that specific stressor. So whether it could be anxiety or relationship issues, or maybe it's grief that's keeping you up at night, or persistent pain is a very common reason why people don't sleep well, or maybe it's depression. So there's many different reasons why we could be awake at night and having a difficult time falling asleep. And so my message to you would be to reach out to the primary care network and see what programs are available for you in those particular areas. We have at the Red Deer Primary Care Network and many of the other ones around Alberta, we have anxiety to calm workshops. We have a wonderful persistent pain workshop, relationship, grief, and a happiness workshop for mild to moderate depression. And we also have mental health counselors that people can refer themselves to see for up to 6 sessions for free. So there's many other supports that could help you tackle possibly any life stressors that you might be experiencing, thus improving your sleep overall. Practice relaxation techniques. So there's many different relaxation techniques out there that we know can help to wind down the mind and body to feel rested enough or restful enough to fall asleep at night. So anything from deep breathing to guided imagery, to doing a body scan where you really bring yourself into the here and now and try to identify things that you can see, hear, feel, smell, and tapping into all of those senses. Those are some really good ways to induce relaxation, as well as progressive muscle relaxation. So that's a skill that we're going to try here right away. And it's one that's really been proven to help people fall asleep at night. And then winding down is the last point there. So planning relaxing evening activities can help quiet the mind. You know, when you think about putting children to bed, we don't wind them up and then say, okay, it's time for bed. We have to give them relaxing activities and calm environment to help them wind down before bed. And that's the same for adults as well. So planning some relaxation activities in your evening, such as listening to music or just catching up even on the easier chores, like possibly folding laundry, maybe some journaling or doing a craft that you love, like knitting or crocheting or puzzle, or reading. So those are some wind down activities that you can consider putting into your life as a more of a regular activity to help influence your sleep. So I mentioned progressive muscle relaxation. And so I'd like to share a YouTube example of that. So that would be my recommendation if you want to try this on your own time, is to just go into YouTube and type in progressive muscle relaxation and try out a few of them and see which ones work best for you. So I'm going to just switch my screen here to the YouTube page. And Kelsey, can you let me know if you can see that or not?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to press play and I invite you to follow along and try this out for yourself.
Did you know that when we are feeling stressed, our bodies are also affected? We experience tense muscles and may feel stiff in some parts of our bodies. We can change that by taking purposeful actions to relax them. This helps calm our minds and bodies down by telling our brains that we are more relaxed. We do this through progressive relaxation, a simple exercise of tensing one part of our body at a time and relaxing it with the release of the tension. Let's try it out now. Stand in a relaxed position. Feet placed one shoulder length apart. Start off the exercise by tightening your eye muscles, Shut your eyelids tightly. Hold for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Feel that tension fade away. Breathe in and out. Gently pull your head back as if to look at the ceiling. Hold for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Relax your head on your shoulders. Breathe in and out. Now lift your shoulders up as if they could touch your ears. Hold for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Feel the weight of your shoulders as they fall back down. Breathe in and out. Lastly, clench your fists and squeeze your toes together as tightly as you can. Hold for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Feel the sense of relaxation in your fingers and toes. Breathe in and out. We have come to the end of the exercise. With practice, you are better able to relieve your tensed muscles whenever you feel stressed. Make progressive relaxation part of your daily routine.
Okay, thank you everybody who gave that a try. I hope that that did help to give you an experience of relaxation and encourage you to incorporate something like that into your nightly routine. So once you get the idea of how progressive muscle relaxation works, going through different parts of your body, tightening them for a few seconds, and then relaxing them. You may not need something guided like a YouTube video to do that, and you may be able to kind of work your way through that on your own. But just as the video said, it's worth trying more than once. So I always recommend to people, if they try any sort of relaxation technique and they didn't like it on the first try, we have to give them, a few good solid attempts before we form an opinion about them. So do try different types of relaxation techniques, the deep breathing or guided imagery, and find what might work best for you in that skill. Okay, so at this point, I am going to let Kelsey talk about sleep medications, and then we will wrap up with how the primary care network can support you.
Thanks so much, Lindsay. So I'll talk briefly about medications for sleep because as a pharmacist, I know that many people hope for a pill that can help with either falling asleep or staying asleep. And I talk to a lot of people who experience troubles in that way. And I know it's a very common struggle to have, but the key here is there's really no easy fix and no magic pill. So the skills that Lindsay has just shown us are what are really valuable. Just so that we know what we're talking about, generally I'm talking about prescription sleep medications, and there are quite a few of them that you may have heard of or may have tried, including Zopiclone or Imavane, Zolpidem or Ambien, Sublinox, S-Zopiclone or Lunesta, and the class of benzodiazepines, so temazepam or Restoril and triazolam are other common ones that you may have heard of. And in general, sleep medications should only be used for the short term, meaning about 1 to 4 weeks. Reasons for that include, firstly, side effects. A lot of people come to me with things like memory troubles, difficulty focusing, just feeling generally groggy in their workday or in their other activities, and they can't quite figure out why, but lots of times that can be linked to a sleep medication. So I mentioned the memory troubles, but some other concerning things like sleep behaviors, so even doing actions in your sleep, such as getting out of bed and eating and not remembering having done that. Even driving can occur, which is very dangerous, of course. So it's more than just feeling groggy. There can be some serious impacts. And another common one is a metallic taste in the mouth that can interfere with the way your food tastes. Another thing to note is that most people who take sleep medications actually don't feel any more rested because of the sleep medication. You might think that you're getting a better sleep, but in reality, you're probably not, and you may feel worse because of these lingering side effects that can be around almost the entire next day in some cases. The side effects are especially pronounced in older people, and it also increases the risk of falls, which is a safety risk, of course. Sleep medications can be habit forming, which is another way to say that tolerance can develop. So once you've started a sleep medication, your body will become accustomed to it over time. And although this likely won't improve your sleep in the long run, it can be mentally and physically difficult to stop the medications. So your body's used to it being there. If all of a sudden you stop taking it, you'll likely have a very hard time sleeping without it. And this can often lead people to think that they're better off taking the medication since they can't sleep without it. And it's really not that you can't sleep without it. It's just that you need to make that transition slowly. So if you've been on a sleep medication for several months or even years and then suddenly stop taking it, of course, there'll be an adjustment period for your body, which is why I would recommend, if you're looking at stopping a sleep medication, to speak to your pharmacist or healthcare provider about a way to come off the medication more slowly, so that your body can adjust and hopefully provide some restful sleep in the meantime, but also noting that it will be a transition period that might make your sleep a bit more difficult in the short term. Overall, though, hopefully without medications and using the tips and tricks you've learned, you'll feel more rested when you wake up in the morning. So that was what I had to share about sleep medications. And now I'll turn it back to Lindsay so we can wrap up with a bit more information for you.
Thanks, Kelsey. Okay, so how can the Primary Care Network help you? Well, the Red Deer PCN has a 5-week sleep program that you can refer yourself to. You don't even need to get your doctor to refer you. You can call the phone number that you see on the screen there, 403-343-9100, and register yourself. And so this program runs once a month, and it's really basically very similar to what we're talking about to you today. So you get a manual that has a bunch of these tips and information, but it also has a weekly feedback with myself as your kind of sleep coach. You will fill out a sleep diary and send that into the PCN for us to review, and then we will send you back recommendations. And so that's how the sleep program works. And again, it's very easy to get into and easy to refer yourself to. It includes one group-based Zoom information session. So you will have to have access to a computer so that you can use Zoom, and also for the email portion of the program. And so if you do have any sleep issues, I would highly recommend taking that program. And then I also wanted to share with you this Insomnia Coach app that is very similar to our program. And so I believe it was developed through the Veterans Affairs of America and the University of Stanford. And so this app, I just pulled it up on my phone so I can show you the icon. I'll give you my best way to do that. So it's blue background and a white moon. And so it's called Insomnia Coach app. And so again, it's very similar to the program, but it's in an app form. So that might be another option for you if you're interested. And so other than that, we hope that you enjoyed the presentation and that you were able to pull out a few tips and tricks from the presentation that will help to improve your sleep overall. And I think that's it. Kelsey, do you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Nothing else from me. Just thanks for listening, everyone.
Oh, and I guess I should say too, if you were really interested in the sleep medication section of this this workshop, this health cafe, then you can also refer yourself to our primary care network pharmacists to have a discussion about your sleep medications, especially if you're interested in possibly tapering, or if you have issues with them, then that's available to you too.